Hi, everyone. First, I want to thank Homit and Pete and the crew here from Avera for inviting us, and it's been a real treat to come over from the U.S. And it was mentioned that I started Scannermaster in the 1970s. I just want to make sure you know it was the late 1970s, and I was a kid at the time. But what we just about me real quick, I started a business writing books on scanners, and as you may know, scanners in the United States were extremely popular, a little less so now, but still quite a nice business. And what I've been doing since that time is developing scanner technology with a lot of different partners, and now working with Steve, developing this remote head product for scanners. So we're introducing the RH200, a new remote head for unit end scanners. Remote head benefits, convenience. It's a control unit, as you see here, for mobile, base, or portable scanners. As it's noted, physically separated from the main unit body. So it's a standalone unit. The head is connected to the main unit via a USB cable, brings up data, power, and audio, all carried through a single cable. It allows for flexible installation in vehicles and locations where the main radio might not easily fit. So obviously there's just no room in vehicles anymore to have a full-size scanner in the car or truck or RV. And now with this unit, which looks very much like a GPS, so you don't even know that you've got a scanner in the car. Anybody looking in, just looks like a simple GPS. You've got this device that requires no physical change to the scanner itself. It's plug and play. And it brings control and status right to your fingertips. The full radio control, full menu control, everything you need to control the radio. And it takes the radio out of sight of potential thieves, as noted here. It can easily be unplugged in seconds and safely stowed away. We thought we'd give you a short history of Scannermaster and remote heads, because we do a lot of custom development. So back in the early 2000s, if you're familiar with the Bearcat 780, and then there was the 785 and the 796 scanners, which were extremely popular. My company, working with some engineers, developed a remote head kit where you could physically remove the front panel of the radio, and we had a back panel for the front unit. And similarly, it was an Ethernet cable that then connected to the back of the radio. And this was the first scanner remote head. As noted, it was Ethernet cable. Then Uniden came out, when they came out with the Bearcat 996, Bearcat 15s, and their portables, you could use this remote head that Uniden developed, the Bearcat RH96. Initially, they came out with it, they marketed it, and later Scannermaster, my company, became the international and national retailer of this remote head product. And then I'm going to turn it over to Steve, who's going to tell you about the new RH200 that he's developing.
Thanks, Rich. Hopefully you can hear me okay. So that's the background to the Scannermaster involvement with the remote head technology, and basically my involvement with Rich Barnett and his company started in late 2023. So my day job is I work in semiconductors, so it's this sort of working in large teams developing silicon chips for consumer electronics and whatnot. But as a sideline, I'm a radio enthusiast and I like making stuff. and I like radio scanners, so I built up a small remote head which was for the SDS200. You can see in the small inset there, which had a very basic microcontroller with a small resistive touchscreen connected to it, and I put that on one of the forums, and Rich and his friend Rich Carlson sort of got in touch with me. They saw this picture and said, well, this is an idea that we want to take forward. Would you like to help us develop this into something? So that's the background to the RH200. There was an earlier prototype with a slightly different form factor that we see in the picture there, a bit more basic. This speaker was on the top, and that was demonstrated in the date in Hamvention, May 2024. So the current model that we've brought here is had some significant improvements. You can see that the speaker's on the front, and there's different electronics inside it. There's a Bluetooth module, GPS module, some features which we'll go through in the subsequent slides, but this is quite a different beast inside. And also, it's noteworthy that this is not a production unit, this is still a prototype, but it's something that we're working forward to produce, and that's kind of really in the next steps that we'll go through at the end of the slide set. So that's the V3 prototype that we can see. So what does it do? So there's a colour touchscreen. That's the 3.5-inch full colour capacitive touchscreen, which is exactly the same dimensions and resolution as the SDS200 integrated screen, but it is a capacitive touchscreen, unlike the one inside the Uniden radio. It's probably significant. I think it's significantly brighter and clearer, and yeah, it's nice, a nice quality screen. It, because we don't have real estate for the physical buttons on this remote head, it has when you touch the screen, there's a virtual keypad that comes up. It pops up for a certain amount of time, and you can dismiss it by touching the screen again. So it gives you, on the SDS, and we attempt to do it on all the other radios that it's compatible with, a sort of 100% pixel perfect representation of what's on the scanner display. It has customizable color palette, which we will, on the next unit, we'll have an SD card slot and a USB port that the users can easily access. At the moment, they're actually inside the unit. They're available, but they're actually not very conveniently mounted. But the prototype has the ability for the users to customize the color palette and other options in the remote head. The screen can also be flipped and made to go upside down if you wanted to mount the unit upside down and rotate it. It also has an integrated audio amplifier and a small speaker, which is actually quite punchy. We haven't had any decent audio to pass through it in the demonstration, but it's remarkably loud for the size. And it has a Bluetooth transceiver module, so that can basically support audio streaming using the Bluetooth A2DP profile at 44.1 kilohertz sampling rate to your car infotainment system or stereo headphones or other Bluetooth device. And that's something a feature which the radios lack. They don't have any Bluetooth streaming on them, so the remote head can support that. It also has an integrated GPS module, which is compatible with all the GPS. It's a modern GPS module. It has the GLONASS, Galileo, all the supports of all the different satellite constellations, and it converts the NMEA sentences to the correct format that the Uniden radios like to hear. So you don't need to buy an additional GPS module. And it's there on the dashboard. It's a convenient location to have the GPS antenna for mobile operation. You don't need to modify the scanner. It's just plug and play. So all the connection to the scanner is done via a sort of interface box. This connects to either the USB to control the radio, or a serial port for the older models. It also takes the audio connection via the speaker or headphone output and takes the power, and then all of the signals are sent through Cat5 Ethernet cable. So there's a list of some of the models and the international variants are not listed of these models, but what I can say is that pretty much all of the scanners Uniden scanners for the last 15 years are supported by the remote head. It's a question of rendering the appropriate virtual keypad to match the functions that are supported on the model. That's what needs to be done to make these models supported. But the underlying communication protocol is pretty much identical between all these radios, which means it's very easy to adapt for legacy models. In the next revision of the control head here, which we don't have the prototype for at the Avera show, but we have the ability to control the scanner power from the remote head, and this will issue a graceful power down sequence for the SD card scanners, because if you simply pull the power out of the back whilst it's doing SD recording, you can end up with a corrupted card. So we send a sequence of commands to the radio to say, we're about to shut down the power, so please stop accessing the SD card, and then we take the power away. There's also an ambient light monitor, so that will automatically adjust the screen brightness for day and night driving, which can be disabled, and there's also manual control of the screen brightness via a screen settings menu. It has an amps mounting pattern for the RAM or amps mounting hardware, so you can get a nice suction mount like this on the back and screw it onto the back. And a single Ethernet cable, which routes all to a small interface box that sort of breaks out to all the connections on the radio. It also has the ability to control two scanners, because we have two ports. We have a serial port and a USB port, so it's possible to route both audio and control to two different scanners and switch between them. So that's a special sort of added bonus. So here's some of the apologies for the quality of the images here. These are not digital. These are not digitized directly from the software. These are actually from me taking a photograph of the unit in a darkened room. So they're actually remarkably good considering the conditions. But do apologise. They're not the nicest colours in the world. But it's just to show you what it looks like when it's connected to certain radios, and we try to attempt to make it a very accurate representation of what's on the radio. So the radio is just sending information about what's going to be on the screen, what's highlighted, but all the font and the formatting and the lines and all the rest of it is stuff that we've had to code up so that it looks exactly like the front of the radio. We also have some sort of touch sensitive areas on the screen. So we've got on the bottom line, we've obviously got the usual soft keys for system, department, channel, whatever they become. They're context-sensitive touch areas. And then on the top, we've kind of got three hidden areas. One's for accessing the function button, one's for the menu button, and one in the middle is for the scanner settings, the remote head settings. So it's quite simple. It's not very complex. There's not a lot of nested menus. We just try to keep it as straightforward as possible. So we can see we've got the SDS 200 screen there. We've got the 536, which is an American model. That's got a permanent, simply because of the number of lines on the display, it was more convenient to keep the virtual keyboard popped up permanently, so that's a slightly different layout. We also have the BCT15X or the 996, which again has a slightly different screen layout. That's a similar output that you get if you connect it to a 260 or a 160, and then the HP 436, which is a handheld scanner, or the 3600, which is the European model version of that. We get this output here. So it's compatible with a lot of different models. So just to go into the background of some of the technical challenges that I faced developing the sort of hardware and software for this, one of the things that it might not seem like an obvious thing, but when you're trying to develop something with a nice smooth display, if you've got some firmware which is just writing to display memory, you have to be very careful, because you can get very flickery artifacts if you're just writing directly to the screen. So the firmware actually it has a sort of ping pong display buffer. So it basically writes to an area of memory which is a buffer, and then it uses a DMA, a fast direct memory access transfer, to go to the screen memory. So it's very, you render the display first in memory, and then you copy it to the screen using a DMA transfer. That makes it very smooth, and it doesn't look like it's flickering. The responsiveness of the control, it's another thing, is that even though we know that the serial protocol is quite comparatively slow and simple, it can hold up a processor waiting for responses to come back. So if I'd written this in the software, the firmware, in a way that it was a sort of single thread of operation, it would be very, very slow, because it would have to wait for all the control state or status information to come back to the head, render it into memory, and then update it, and it would be very jerky and very sort of clunky, very unresponsive. So fortunately, we've got a dual-core processor. It's a microcontroller, 32-bit microcontroller, has 2 cores on it. It's got a real-time operating system that it's actually running. And the first core is doing the communication to the radio, and it's storing the results of the communication in an area of memory, and it tells the other core, I've received some new communication, now you can re-render the screen. So it's using a dual-core multi-threading type architecture. The third difficulty is to do with USB communication. So when you are plugging into your scanner USB port, and you're controlling with the serial commands on your computer or whatever it is, your control software, and you're just using a serial protocol, it's not directly wiring TXD and RXD into the USB. You're sitting upon the USB communication protocol stack. So actually, in order to make it work, you have got to create a USB CDC host stack. You need to write that. So I've got a processor with that running on it, which then it runs what's known as device enumeration. When you plug it in, it has to ask a query response to the radio to say, yes, it supports the CDC protocol, and then it starts to send the information back to the head unit. So there's just some of the difficulties of overcoming what ostensibly looks like quite a simple system, but there's some subtleties in there. Next steps. At this point, I'll hand back over to Rich, who will talk about what's the future.
So, as I believe Steve also mentioned, dynamic switching between 2 scanners. You're going to have the ability to have 2 scanners actually running if you want, a serial and a USB scanner connected to the remote head, and then you can switch back and forth between the 2, or run audio from 2 scanners through a single speaker, or connect 2 separate speakers to the remote head through jacks at the top, and listen to 2 separate scanners at the same time while watching the display of a single scanner. Bluetooth audio pairing, so you can listen to a scanner through headphones or through the car speakers, for example. Hardware development, Steve mentioned we've got some work to do on the interface box for power supply switching. And I know this is the big question, pricing and release date to be determined. There's a lot of work involved here. So we can't be sure on either of those points, but we're certainly targeting next year for a release date. And Avera will keep you posted as soon as we know more. I'll take a couple of sales questions, otherwise I'll turn it over to Steve for any technical questions you have, or we'll be in the showroom and for the rest of the afternoon if you have any further questions, want to get into any further details. But yes, go ahead.
Are we allowed to advertise this product yet?
I'm sorry.
Would you like us? Are we allowed to advertise the product yet, or do you want to hang back on that?
I prefer you hang back right now until just for a little while. I think you'd agree, Steve, right?
Yeah, I suppose the pressure. Well, we need some forward pressure, obviously, on this, but I think yeah.
Obviously, for me as a reseller and obviously a UK wholesaler, yeah, we could gauge interest and people would then be asking us questions. I just was, obviously the quicker we advertise the new product, the more traction we can get for when it comes available. But
Yeah.
you know, we'll be led by you guys.
Yeah. We don't want to be in that position like we were talking about the AOR radio, where they announce something
Yeah.
and it's complete vaporware and there's nothing to show for it.
Yeah, I
Right.
understand that.
It's
Yeah,
embarrassing, isn't it?
Right. It's
Yeah.
certainly, we've shown it at Dayton. Avera and has put it out on the web, and people have taken videos at Dayton and put it out on Facebook and so forth. So people know about it. We just don't want to give a release date and a price and that sort of thing.
all right.
But certainly, I think, especially if you're a dealer or you sell to dealers who are installers, this is just a tremendous opportunity because, you can mount this thing in your trunk and sell the amps mount, sell remote speakers, do all sorts of things, and sell additional scanners.
Yeah. Woohoo.
Yes, you had a question?
What kind of users do you have in mind? Because, I don't know,
I'm sorry, my ears are still blocked from the flight. I couldn't hear you.
what kind of users do you have in mind for this? Because I don't know what the price range is, but a portable scanner is 300 euros. How much is this?
Again, I just can't be sure on the price yet, but
With the range?
somebody came up to the booth and asked us that earlier and said, will it be less than the price of this scanner?
Yeah.
And I could say, yes, it'll be less than the cost of this scanner. But beyond that, I'd be hesitant to give you an exact number. I'm sorry, I just don't want to make any promises.
No.
And we're just too far away from production. Okay. All right, well, be happy to talk about it further at our booth. But thank you very much for your time. I hope you'll consider it. Thank you.